Hello and welcome to Inventing Construction. I'm Elia and we have Harry here with us today. In today's episode, we are going to get a little crazy. We are going to rethink, we are going to consider resetting everything we know about the quantity surveying processes, or at least try to imagine how it will be our work working differently, forgetting everything we've learned in the profession and actually considering what will it be to start again from scratch, not being influenced or corrupted by the way we've learned, the way we have to work and how are we delivering, but actually considering a total disruption of those conventional and traditional processes and how it will be to actually innovate on that blank canvas setting. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what led you to be a quantity surveyor, digital quantity surveyor, sorry, we'll specify.
So I work at Cosmos. I'm a cost manager here. I've been working for consultancy businesses for 8 years who specialize in the financial management of construction projects, big construction projects. My route into doing that, I learned the trade of quantity surveying. I did that through a university degree that was taught part-time. And then I was working at the same time as that, getting like an apprenticeship experience. And then, since then, just hardcore 5 days a week, quantity surveying, delivering projects on budget.
On budget, yeah, sure. So the quantity surveying on a traditional, conventional way in the UK, international projects.
Yeah. So I'm pretty aware of how cost management from a consultancy point of view is run in the on UK and Ireland projects. It can be frustrating at times. I don't think QSs are known for being a super digitally advanced or having a super efficient workflow. I mean, a lot of what we do, you might say it's not quite paper-based, but some of it still is.
It's very much time-consuming, but
time-consuming, inefficient, unproductive. That's probably not going to be a surprise to any QS.
Quantity surveying, so in the UK and Ireland and these countries, it is a profession itself, and therefore has been regulated, and there is a clear understanding of the role in the project, and there are certain processes for it. Now, of course, the role doesn't exist in Denmark, meaning there is no processes at all for that. And we will go into that in a minute, which is a con, but also an advantage. But in terms of the defined processes in the UK and Ireland, they have been there since the origin of the profession. And we are meant to do the work and deliver in the same way that it was originally planned for construction back in the day when the profession, when the surveying first started to be a role in projects. How do we? What are our thoughts around these processes that have been unchanged? They've been there since centuries, and it doesn't seem that there is any interest on changing them.
Yeah, well, thoughts on that. How have we managed to get away with it for so long? How come there's not been other teams that have been challenging the status quo, shone through and taken all the opportunities and all the fees with more efficient, more productive ways of working? How can we stay the same for 100 years and still have our jobs? Like architects 100 years ago might have been drawing and creating their designs on paper. If you were still doing that now, you wouldn't be able to keep up with all the new architects who are now using Revit and Python. So QSs, we're consistently doing a poor job at innovating and getting more productive across the board. And so no one stands out as being behind.
Other teams and the clients themselves, right? Because no one is questioning why my project is delayed by this many months that are necessary to measure the entire project and give me a budget. And why after this budget is over budget, I still need to go back and redesign. So basically time impact of this outdated, I will qualify these processes outdated because they are not at all adjusted to modern ways of design and construction today. But so they're extending the entire project duration by these months to perform the task rather than doing it parallel to the other teams as they work. But also the consumption of hours, of resource hours to do, to produce and deliver in such a manual, tedious way. You could say they are redesign. It's almost sometimes more hours than to design itself. You're redesigning by going absolutely through everything and measuring it again. You better do, instead of measuring a wall from A to B, you could be designing the wall from A to B, right? So you're basically going through the entire design, redesigning it, just for the sole purpose of extracting the information and taking quantities from exactly. It, correct?
And the outcome of that is what you're talking about now is estimating the cost of a building. We've received a design from the design team full of architects and engineers, and then the QS typically is taking that design away. Like a pause is made.
Siloed it.
It's in a silo or on a bottleneck, and we might take a month or a couple of months to come back and tell you what we think the opinion is. Our opinion is of how much this building's going to cost. And
produce something totally disjoint from that design that cannot be transferable, and it cannot be recycled, and it cannot be connected to the common data environment in any way at all. We've had an interview with one information manager, very interesting to watch, and she will be horrified by hearing these conventional practices out there. But why no one is questioning this is, why not quantity surveyors themselves putting so much time of their own lives on doing this type of work that is going nowhere, is siloed things, it has a dead end. And clients are saying, why I'm paying someone for doing this when, this could be optimized in different ways. So
it's a good question. I don't know how we're getting away with it. Like, it's already putting strains on relationships with different members of the team. The architects spent a lot of time creating a design they're really happy with. It's really creative, and they're excited about it. Then when we go away and we come back and the budget is huge, not the budget is huge, our estimate is much bigger than anticipated. And we've got to start making cuts on that design they're really proud of. So then all they see is the QSs going away, taking too long to come back with the estimate. And then the bad news is everything that you really were excited about the project, maybe it's the finishes or some really nice glazing, we're going to make a recommendation that's reduced or cut out to bring the project back in line with the budget. So there's one problem, relationships with the different members of the team. That's already an outcome of.
And I've heard in all these conferences, technology is going to improve the process, is going to improve the delivery. I don't think technology is going to save the quantity surveyor from being the mood killer, the party killer, the one that brings the bad news always to the table. It's not technology that is going to do that, because...
But it'll set expectations earlier. We'll be able to provide that advice quicker, earlier in the project. So if we talk about like designing to cost, maybe that's as the design is progressing, we can increase the feedback loop from changing the design and updating the design to the cost advice. So you don't get too the design doesn't get too far. And then it's got, there's even more rework when we come back with the estimate. If we're doing it in chunks and much more frequent feedback loops, then we don't have to do as much rework when there are problems.
But you're saying something very interesting there, Harry. You are now challenging the process. So, and that is very important to bear in mind, because it is not about bringing technology to the current processes. It is not technology is not the savior that is going to allow you to do things the same way you are doing them right now. Your methods, your processes of measuring just digitally. I think that entire concept is what needs to be challenged. It's not the fact that you receive the print material and then you work with it digitally with a tool, technology tool in the computer. That's still, I think, not enough. So therefore, creating tools and creating technology to support quantity surveyors, contract managers, commercial managers, cost managers, in this carbon LCA, in this mindset of tell me what you do and I will bring technology to assist you. I think that's not going to solve the issue. What we should be questioning is farther behind, or like move to the origin of day one. What do you need? Not what have you been doing for the last centuries? It's like, what do you want to get? And then tell me, where do you start? And now we start rethinking how technology can support you. But forget about how you've been working all these years. Don't work the same way ever again in a project. Just forget about that. Just work. Like, it's about challenging the process. And it's exactly what you were saying there a minute ago. Like, we need to work in smaller chunks. So now you are bringing that implementation of technology, not to the actual involvement or traditional involvement of the quantity surveyor in the project, but actually trying to bring him forward to target smaller chunks of the project, ergo early in the design stage, correct? Or that's what I understood.
Yeah, definitely. And that is interesting, not just speeding up the process, but looking at the requirements that we have and simplifying and
the process itself, right? It's not supporting the current traditional conventional processes that have not been challenged or changed since forever, and make them technological now with technology tools, but actually forget about the process. Change the process, disrupt the process, start from the beginning like if the profession had never existed before, ever. And now reshape it.
Yes.
With a technological mindset, understanding what tools, what is the potential out there, what other industries have done for similar outputs. We deliver a very specific product to building assets, but like in the end, it's not so different from other production industries, right? Or the concept should be similar. So why don't we apply some of those good practices, best practices on a small scale, but in this large scale of buildings and design a product, right? And how do we reconsider all those processes again? Having this in mind, I think you've already have the chance to experience how it is to work in an industry where quantity surveying doesn't exist at all.
Yeah.
White canvas, no traditional conventional processes, full freedom to reinvent the process because it's not regulated.
Yeah, that was a surprise coming to Denmark, that they don't have quantity surveying at all. Like, what are the 2 or 3 practices in Copenhagen? Maybe we shouldn't say that, because that might be an opportunity for some of our rivals to come over and take all of the projects. But quantity surveying is new here. What I'm used to in the UK and Ireland, there's quantity surveyors everywhere. The client's got a QS. The client will hire a consultant as a QS. Then all the way down the supply chain, the main contractor, we're all talking the same language with the main contractor's QS, who then passes the information down to their subcontractor's QS. There's QSs everywhere in the UK and Ireland. And coming to Denmark, it's completely fresh. So, and that is a big opportunity to do what we're saying. Look at the outcome of what it is that we're trying to achieve, and it's bring financial control to construction projects. And we don't have to follow, there's no expectation from clients or the design teams that we work with to follow a status quo. So it does mean that the process we follow here is dynamic and simplified.
Mm-hmm. No, but totally. I think I was being maybe a little harsh regarding why you do things the same way you've always done forever. Well, it's regulated, and there is expectations for you to do it that way. So obviously, it's not an easy job for quantity surveyors in these markets to actually say, "I'm gonna disrupt the entire process. I'm gonna do things differently." Because at the end of the day, it is expected that you operate and provide certain certain deliveries, right, that are maybe not achievable with rethinking and reshaping the process. It will be a different type of delivery, and some clients out there might not be so open-minded to give it a go and give it a try. But definitely, it's not all in their hands, and they have that huge challenge. Now, not having a regulated process or not having a regulated profession in the Nordic markets is also a challenge, meaning the people in the team are not aware of the role. This is totally alien to them. They don't understand what are these people doing here, what for, because it doesn't exist. So, of course, both teams of quantity surveyors in the UK Irish market, in Danish markets, face different challenges. I'm not saying one is going to have it easier than the others, but definitely an opportunity to have freedom to reshape the processes, the way we approach a project. How do we manipulate data? How do we manipulate information? What do we produce in projects? Following totally different methods and standards and processes than it would be conventionally expected in other markets, because there's no expectation. Now we face other challenges. It's not easy in terms of communicating cost and trying to make the message to go through in other aspects. But in this regard, is definitely an opportunity for implementing digital and technology into a totally new process defined to optimize and create a better output for the clients, rather than trying to meet their outdated expectations, maybe, because they haven't seen what the new mindsets, what the new shapes of that process and what totally reinvented, I would call it like that, reinvented delivery will look like, and how much more valuable it is than what they are used to receive and work with. And that is applicable to the processes for quantity surveyors, for estimating, how we collaborate with the design teams, how do we intervene in projects, how do we receive data, how do we ask for data, how do we set our requirements for data, how do we work with that data and produce that data. But also is applicable to all their aspects of our deliveries. For example, not only the bill of quantities or the final figures, but it would also be applicable to change management, to providing information proactively for informed decision making for the clients, providing more insightful reports that you don't need to spend hours reading and trying to understand, but actually also rethinking that part of the process. I'm not only referring to measuring and quantity takeoff as the process of quantity surveyors, but everything else we produce, right?
Yes, so not just
reporting?
the estimating, but during the execution and construction stages too. Yeah. Like keeping a closer eye on the progress that's happening. Insights for cash flow, valuations, and payments. The risk of getting those calculations wrong using inaccurate data can be the consequence of that can be huge. So using data and reporting techniques, it sounds like that's the route we're going down now. And managing change, that's super important. And again, if we look at the status quo, that could be a paper-based cost report that's delivered to the client, or we sit down and read it together once a month. The paper's on the table. And there's a couple of problems. Well, there's plenty of problems. But one of them is, as soon as that report's been issued, it's instantly out of date. A change could happen on site, or a new design could come out that day, and then your report's worthless, and you've got to wait another month to get that next update. So during that month, there's a lot of wrong decisions that could have been made when it comes to cost, and that's one of the risks that it can lead to by not improving or not changing that process. It's a bit like when I think about that on the monthly paper-based reporting. It's when I spoke to people about it before, it puts it into context when you think about bank statements. If you used to receive a bank statement once a month and you knew how much was in your account at that time, and then you'd make your decisions for the month. And now we have it all on mobile. So as soon as you've made a payment, how much money you've got in your account. And it's almost like a live feed. We're not there yet. We've not got a live feed into construction changes that happen when we get new designs out. But maybe it's every 2 or 3 days now. Maybe it's every 3 or 4 days compared to once a month. It makes you closer. The people who are making the decisions are closer to the action so they can make smarter decisions.
You prevent the fires from firing proactively. And it is all because that's already changing the mindset. It's already understanding that innovation applied to the traditional processes, it only gets us that far. But now, when you start changing this process, you start collecting this data, that opens a huge window for opportunity. Well, I'm talking data, but also, it could be disrupting the process in many different ways, not just as in making it digital so that you can collect data. There is many other ways to disrupt the process. You could even come by questioning, is the quantity surveyor needed at all? Or, how I don't know, being drastic. But when you start working with this data, then you can actually start applying other type of technologies, modern ways of reporting. It could have been unthinkable a few years ago to know what is your life cost what is the life cost of your building ish, have that,
how much do you owe?
And have that life, right? And be able to go there and update as per the latest report without waiting to receive that in your email for your next meeting, and start targeting or have the most up-to-date information for when you go to your executive meetings, and even be able to have those charts and visuals, right, ready to go for your own reports without needing to generate and double processing that data. Why to have everybody creating their own visuals on the same data when you can just have that readily available as part of the project setting itself? So I think the window for opportunities is huge. But again, this comes by questioning and challenging the reporting expectations as well, isn't it? Like you're not expecting that report the PDF report in your mailbox. You are open to have that report elsewhere in a different shape, in a different form.
We've just talked about how easy it is in Denmark too, because we don't have the hurdles that the status quo that is, exists in the UK and Ireland. Well, what is the advice, back home? How can we help them out there and on that journey of change?
I think that because in Denmark the profession is not known, and there is not that many people familiar with the language and the terminology and the output itself. What is cost reports? What is monthly reports? What is change management, etc.
Yeah, there's not the existing process that is deleting.
But that's one of the challenges, I suppose, right? That you are talking a language that is not broadly understood, because that's not something that the teams are used to receive. Now, that also involves the need to simplify that information, which is not a bad thing. We are in an era of where we are receiving informations in tons every day, from everywhere, and I think we are in need to get things simpler for the message to actually come through for ourselves. We are not going to read pages anymore. It's very time consuming, but it's also energy draining, to totally read and understand something that could be represented in an infographic, that could be an advertisement. An advertisement gets the message through much faster. Why? Because it's visual, because it's easy, because it has been simplified, because it has been studied, because that information has been analyzed to reshape it into a way that will be more digestible. And I think that's also part of one other aspect that needs to be rethought result.
Yeah, work should
I
be
made the word.
work should definitely be more fun for QSs. Like right now,
And for people receiving this information from the QSs, right? Wouldn't it be nicer to actually at a glance understand where you are there, and rather than reading reports? And
it shouldn't have to be a pain, should it?
we were having a very interesting discussion the other day, Harry, in the office regarding processes, and as a little bit as a joke, right? We started challenging the process to the point that we started challenging why we were challenging the process itself, right? So we started stripping the process in so many different pieces, like challenging the output, but then we started, why we do things this way, and why do we use this, and why do we even do this at all, etc. And I think you mentioned one interesting method approach from one of these influencers out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't mention him, but he has a very interesting approach to that, which is just basically just strip it out.
I'm surprised. I didn't think you were a fan of him. So we were talking about the Musk algorithm and simplifying, deleting. And my favorite part of that is where as part of the simplification of a process and the optimizing the process, you question every single one of the requirements throughout the entire process and delete as much as possible. Yeah. And the coolest part about that is in his part of his plan is and recommendations and rules is if you don't have to then bring back 10% of the stuff that you've deleted, then you didn't try hard enough. You didn't simplify and optimize the process enough.
So his approach is deleting 10% of the entire thing.
Delete as much as possible, and then but you delete too much, and then have to bring some stuff back because you've tried to. You've really given it a good go.
I really think one of the misconceptions, or one of the I think we are failing a little to digitize construction, because we are trying to digitize construction as is. Something that we should be rethinking is why it is, how it is, and can we actually challenge that? So it's not about bringing technology to innovate construction as it is, but actually start from scratch, rethink the entire process to the very beginning, to the origin, and then think of it as in a more technological way, rather than trying to bring technology to support the way we work. And I think that will be much more efficient, and that will allow us to actually progress and have real innovation in the industry, rather than just insist and being stubborn on continue doing the things we've always done, but digital. And I think that's one of the main blockage. Of course, and I think that that's not going to change with generations, as long as we keep being educated and we keep learning in the profession that things are done the way they are done, because that's not challenging the process. You are basically absorbing you are basically learning the processes that actually needs to be challenged. It will be about maybe putting someone from totally different industries with no understanding of construction and ask them to deliver and see. I'm not saying the output will be good, but see which different avenues they will take without knowing what is traditional and what is conventional to do. Because maybe you get surprised, and actually
we can actually
think
see that, can't we? We can see how
you cannot think of those ways because you're already corrupted by the way we've been doing things for years. But but someone that doesn't know those outdated ways and non-efficient ways might approach the challenges from different perspectives, and the processes themselves by different perspectives, and then maybe you are surprised and like, oh, all right, that's the part we could cut out of the process. It's not necessary. We've reached the output without going through those tedious steps. What's the point? Or we reached the output with such a neglectable margin that it's not worth it to delay the project by this many months by measuring something that doesn't have any value in the project, for example. That type of thing.
Sounds like a hackathon challenge. We should probably recommend somewhere like on the.
I'm not sure someone will be able to deliver a project in 2 days, but maybe I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely like we cannot rethink something by being corrupted of the way we work already. And that's we could, but it's very hard. And definitely we are not going to be able to cut and trim as much as if we were not already influenced by those practices, I believe.
Yeah, I think well, we're talking about like the process, like the quantity surveying process, but there's other like low hanging fruit too. Like just or do you want to talk about this on the topic? I'm thinking stuff like how we store data, like how currently some of the problems that we have because the information that we use to produce a report or produce an estimate exists in loads of different places. Like you could have an attachment in your email inbox. There could be an attachment on the client's Dropbox, or we could have a project common data environment. And then it means that the data is fragmented and it's inefficient and unproductive for everyone who needs those different pieces of information to carry out their work and produce the outputs that are required to run projects. Because the sources of information for us exist in so many different places. You could get information from the teams you're working with, from an on-site meeting that you've got to refer to in a report. It could be different communication methods. Have you received this information from WhatsApp, Slack, Teams, your email? And then combining that data to produce an output. They're not, all the different sources aren't interoperable. So it's relying on a manual human effort to bring everything together to then produce guidance and advice to a client on what that means for the cost of a building. And how can it be standardized and repeatable when all the data is existing all over the different, all those different sources? The answer is going down the route of like information management. A single source of truth, CDE. In practice, that's really difficult. How do you combine design outputs and communication in the same system? Does it even need to be in the same system?
The information manager will do that globally, right? But ultimately, it is also about understanding the specific deliveries or the specific workflows, the specific information needed and created for the individual disciplines, right? So we are talking about, for example, in a pre-contract, all the design disciplines will have different approaches to how they generate and how they read data and what type of formats and files. And
they're involved from the very beginning with BIM execution planning. They know what they need to produce the design, and they've got a good idea of what they're going to produce themselves. What I was thinking maybe worth going down is the fact that all those disciplines who do have it maybe a little bit better worked out than us are involved with BIM execution planning from the very beginning. It's rare to see a QS involved. And I don't know if I actually have seen it where the QS is producing the BIM execution
Cosmos
plan.
Has, but I think, more and more stakeholders out there realize that the only way to receive what they need is to be active stakeholders on the definition of those requirements, because there's no one better than themselves to know what is what they need in order to use it. And that applies to cost managers, quantity surveyors, facility management, operations, sustainability, specialists that need to track and monitor carbon consumption during all the different stages, A, B. But I think that that does definitely change in the process, but that's just to adjust or to incorporate the requirements in order to be able to implement some technology, but still implement the technology on the traditional processes and conventional processes that we've worked with since the profession started. And I think that we will benefit much more just from, of course, you need to start somewhere, but just from changing everything and challenging everything of what we do, how we do it, and even the output of what we deliver. And I think that we will benefit much more. Quantity surveyors, but it's applied to all disciplines in the construction industry, really. And that will be the only way to really innovate, rather than just try to apply technology to the conventional way of working.
When you talk about clients and their appetite for what they might accept as a deliverable from a QS as a change from the norm, I think first you have to build up a level of trust with them, don't you? That's what's worked in the past. Like we would have had clients who have maybe delivered 4 or 5 projects, and then at that point they can rely on you as someone who knows the stuff about the cost of buildings, and then they're like, do you know what? If you say this is a good idea, I'll trust you. When you're new to a certain team, that might be much more difficult to say, look, it's great what you guys have been doing, but I want to change this, and it's going to improve things. I don't think. How do you think that would be received, and how can you? I don't think probably too well, but it just means that it gets slower, doesn't it? New ideas will be slower getting implemented because the trust isn't there yet.
Unless it is already been identified that something is not working. As in, I'm sending this report every week, and every single time we meet, the report has not been read. Therefore, why to produce something that no one is looking at, just for the archive? Therefore, you could already bring the problem as awareness. Like, hi, we have a problem. You're paying me to do something that very few people in the project are actually taking advantage of. Why don't we? But it's still necessary. So you still need to, for example, do your monthly report and do a follow-up of what is the status of the project. It's still necessary, but maybe the setting and the delivery itself is not being absorbed or is not being utilized because maybe it's not creating the value that the receivers require. No, so maybe it's about like, I think maybe this could be improved, or we could try, we could test, because improvement is relative. So we could do a test and change it and see what happens. So what if instead of sending you this every month, we spend the time instead on having a meeting, driving you through the status, recording it, creating minutes of meetings, or creating some sort of a video proposal, video explanation, animation, or an infographic, or a dashboard that is live to you to use. And these are all regular practices in other industries, the marketing industry, the production industry. So this is nothing new. We are not reinventing the wheel. We are just transferring some different processes or different deliveries that are in other industries to this one. Let's try and see if it works. Now, once you get there, you will realize that maybe this cannot be produced because the data is not available. And that's part of okay, let's start changing slowly, little by little, the process by, well, what do we need to, you may create a little dashboard, but maybe it's not as insightful as it needs to be. Okay, this is very reactive. It's not proactive. Okay, what do we need to find? What do we need to change to have information timely in order to generate this chart, which, after discussing with everybody, it seems to be what you need to present every month to your finance team to inform them of your status in your construction project. Okay, then let's try to collect that.
It requires a really proactive approach from someone. And that's not always common, especially when people are so busy. We've got so many outputs to produce. And if you don't have a budget for that time, it's often like the people who are doing it, they're probably working through the lunches or working after work because extracurricular to bring this to the table.
And this has been prearranged with the clients in terms of, we can foresee that this is maybe not working. Let's try to create a testing pilot project to see if, because in the end, the ones that will benefit the most are the clients themselves at many different levels. it's not easy. I get driven by the excitement of the possibilities, but it is true that it's not easy just to say, okay, let's change things from day one and feel supported and rewarded by the clients seeing the value and also paying for it, right? That it requires some time, and it's a process, but it is about starting to change that mindset and slowly, while hands-on in these processes, question them rather than saying, "Oh, this is inefficient. I will bring some tool to help me." It's like, why am I even doing this? Right? Where far behind in this process can I go to actually get rid of all these rather than bringing this technology? And it's very difficult, and it requires a lot of constant having the switch on. I'm going to improve what I'm doing while also delivering and meeting the current expectations, agreed expectations with clients and deliveries and with other team members that are expecting your outcome. But it is something that all in the construction industry, quantity surveying specifically in this case or in this context, but we need to have that constant approach, as in challenging the way we are working, the process. We do trying to make it more digital, more technological, more innovate in it, but by actually, trying to break it, to deconstruct that corrupted, accepted mindset we have for the process that we know, and actually try to reinvent it. Very nice
on brand
adjective indeed, because the podcast is called inventing construction. So in this case, reinvent that process, and that will be the only way that we could truly evolve and develop something innovative in construction and see the change timely, rather than just waiting for it to happen slowly by trying to do things the way same way we are doing, just with a fancy digital tool that maybe saves 5% of our time. But what if we could save 50 or 100% of it?
Very good.
Thank you very much, Harry, for changing points of view and experiences here and your time to join us. And,
cool. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Hope you'll join us in the next ones with more examples of how the current role of the digital quantity surveyor is evolving and making effective change in construction projects we'll work with in Cosmos.
Sounds like a good plan.
Thanks very much for listening. There's a LinkedIn link below in the show notes. We would love to connect with you.
We hope you enjoyed it and have you with us in the next one. Thank you very much.